Welcome back to Anybody Wealth, where anybody can learn to build a little bit of wealth one step at a time. In today's video, we're going to discuss the dreaded inflation bear. Seems to be all everyone's been talking about these last several months, so let's get into it. Real quick, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment down below letting me know your biggest fears and worries about inflation. Now, what is inflation? Why is it so important to understand? How do we avoid it, and how do we never worry about it again? All of this in today's video. Let's get started. Okay, at this point, most of us have heard the word inflation thrown around like a very hot potato in a room full of paper ants. Seriously though, inflation is all the rage and worry in today's economic and financial world. With gas prices through the roof, costs of commodities like food and raw materials increasing every single day, and every person in America trying to sell their used car to Carvana for a huge return on investment because these dealerships don't have any existing inventory is, well, insane. According to an earnings call from Chipotle at the beginning of February, a meal at their establishment would cost you 10% more than it did a year ago. This means that you're not only going to feel a lot lighter after the bathroom visit post-dinner time, but your pockets will too. Simply put, inflation is a measure of how much more goods and services cost over a certain period of time. This translates into how much your cost of living is rising with doing nothing differently. Crazy, right? So the same dollar 1 year ago when compared to today's dollar is not only weaker, but the average cost for the items or services you're purchasing has gone up because of it. Sum that up, inflation is the decline of purchasing power of a given currency over time. For the everyday person, inflation is a huge monkey on their back. Our wages haven't or aren't increasing to outpace the rate of inflation. That means as we're working to live and pay our bills as we've always done, the cost of those bills and necessities is going up as long as inflation is running rampant. So what are some of the reasons for inflation? Well, most often it's a sign of an overheating economy. Prices or interest rates remain too low for too long, our economy begins to heat up. That's a great thing, you might think. Well, that's where you're wrong. An overheating economy is when we're expanding at an unsustainable rate and then boom, a bubble bursts somewhere in the economy and we're all feeling the effects of it for years to come. We do not want that. That's why Papa Powell and the Federal Reserve are trying to cool off the jets and slowly, hopefully slowly, raise the federal interest rate to start stabilizing the economy. As we've been at record low inflation rates for quite some time now, it's their job to bring us up to a sustainable rate of inflation and make sure we're all able to continue playing nice. So to sum that up, inflation is neither good nor bad. It's a necessary evil. Inflation remains too low for too long, bing bang boom, we're in for impending doom. Inflation remains too high and touches the sky, we're all bound to suffer and cry. That's my inflation nursery rhyme for the day. You're welcome, YouTube. #cringe. Now, my favorite part of this video and how it relates to wealth management and continuing to build our personal empire. How do we avoid or minimize the effects of the scary inflation monster? I'm glad you asked. We invest. Yes, invest the money. Don't let that money sit in a checking or savings account collecting pathetic levels of interest and losing overall buying power with each passing day. Don't do it. Now, we all need to make sure that we always have an emergency fund available with anywhere between 3 to 6 months of total living expenses tucked away in the event of an emergency. Seriously, I used to disregard this strategy in my early and mid-20s, but every time I had an emergency or life event happen, it completely wrecked any forward progression or momentum I had with my personal finances. And this is independent of the amount of income you earn. If I make $10,000 a month from my job, but I'm spending anywhere near $10,000 on monthly bills, living expenses, partying, or drip, well, that's where you have a problem. You could, in theory, make only $15 an hour, manage your money wisely, limit your expenses, and still manage to set aside 3 to 6 months of living expenses considering your living situation. Money management is all about limiting and decreasing your monthly spend and increasing your earn over time. There are very, very few people in this world, if any, that have ever outpaced reckless spending habits and behavior with their earnings. I mean, seriously, look at a vast majority of our professional athletes, actors, musicians, anyone else we look up to that may end up on E! True Hollywood Story or one of those YouTube documentaries about how I used to be rich. That's from careless spending and a lack of financial literacy. So now we understand that we need to save and set aside an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months worth of living expenditure, but now what do we do with the rest? And this is where the fun begins. This is how we start to insulate ourselves from inflation and make sure that we're not victims victim to the ever-decreasing power of the dollar. How, you ask? By investing. We take our hard-earned dollars that we do not need in case of an emergency, and instead of putting it to bed in our checking or savings account where it gets all dusty and loses its value, we take that money to our favorite brokerage. Personally, I use Merrill Edge through Bank of America because of the simplicity, easy use, no broker or commission fees, and I'm able to self-guide at my leisure. Now, once we take our money to our favorite investment platform, we need to establish a Roth IRA. Why a Roth IRA? Because it's the best tax-sheltered investing option available. There are maximum contribution limits each year, $6,000 a year as of 2022, but still a fantastic option and my first pick for investing. Unlike a traditional IRA, you've already been taxed on the money you contribute to your Roth IRA, and you will not be taxed on any earnings on that investment. That means as you invest and your nest egg grows, when you go to withdraw any gains at age 59 and a half, you'll be able to do so without any tax implications or penalty. We love tax-free earnings, guys. In addition to that, and since you've already paid tax on the Roth IRA contributions, you can withdraw your actual contribution funds with no penalty if an emergency arises. So theoretically, this could act as another type of savings account, only with investment benefits, but you only have up to 60 days to redeposit the contributions, and you can only do this once a year. Contact a CPA beforehand. Okay, so now we're starting to groove and invest, dodging that nasty inflation bear as much as possible. What else? How do we get more than $6,000 a year into the stock market or invest into income-producing assets? Well, there's of course the commonly offered traditional IRA from most employers that often will offer some sort of employer match on contributions. Both the Roth and traditional IRA will each have income limits and caps. Once reached, you'll either no longer be able to contribute to the account, or the account will no longer be tax deferred in the way of the traditional IRA. There are many other investment vehicles that can act as a firewall between you and inflation, such as the ever-popular health savings account or investing in gold, precious metals, but my alternative of choice in this world we currently live in is, in fact, real estate. Real estate, baby. As quoted by Mark Twain, buy land, they aren't making any more of it. I prefer to acquire my land with a house on it ready to go. Now, I'm not going to get into super specific details and conversation about the importance of investing and leveraging real estate just yet on this channel, but I do want to emphasize how valuable an asset such as a single-family residence, a condo, or a townhome can be. Usually the most valuable asset that any individual will own in their lifetime. It's how 90% of Americans generate their wealth they have access to later in life, and the most common form of wealth generation in the average American family. And to top that off, the disparity in wealth between a homeowner versus renter is literally staggering. You'll see in this chart here not just the amount of wealth, but the continuing increase in wealth over time, regardless of the market or circumstance. And you see that static line on the bottom of that chart? That meager amount of never increasing household wealth, that would be your everyday renter. Now, I don't want to get into a huge debate, at least not yet, about renting versus buying. Evidence supports that one of the quickest paths to independent wealth is home ownership. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you're a renter or homeowner and why. And that'll do it, guys. That's it for today's video. We beat that inflation bear silly with our strategies of how to invest and outpace the decrease of the value of our dollar. Remember, guys, responsible money management and actively investing in the market is the most surefire way to set yourself up for financial success. There is no get-rich-quick methodology that will see you retiring by the time you're 20 years old. There is no magic investment that will guarantee you returns greater than 7 to 10% average rate of return in the stock market, and there is no legendary guru that's going to pave the way for you to replicate their empire. It's all about baby steps, guys. I know we all want to be millionaires by tomorrow, but let's focus on making the right plays today. Again, anybodyWEALTH here. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you guys are currently homeowners, renters, what you guys are currently doing to avoid inflation in this market. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one.
Flawless victory.